we've been talking a lot, and I want to bring it in right here, right now, about the transcending of polarities, the transcending of a binary choice. I'm whole or I'm broken. I'm good or I'm bad. I'm wealthy or I'm broke. I'm conscious or I'm unconscious. I'm spiritual or I'm a basket case, right? Like I'm queer or I'm straight. I'm white or I'm black. I'm racist or I'm a good person. Like these, just like permeating our culture. And that so much of what we're here doing, thinking about the we and the here and the doing. The we, I think I could go as universal as all human beings, but certainly seekers, spiritual folks, people who are doing healing work. So much of what we are doing here on earth is being confronted with that oversimplified duality, which can feel kind of easier in some ways. Certainly conceptually, it's easier. Experiencing the contrast of what it feels like to be boxed into those restrictive options, and then finding something else that isn't either one of those things, but could include both of those things on the spectrum. And how important it is that you're bringing that in as we're talking, as we're praising you and celebrating how amazing you are, that be in the context of this transcendent, non-binary existence that we are cultivating.
Yeah, I'm curious after hearing that. You named that it wasn't always this way, and that you had this very different origin story, and now here you are. And so on that journey to visioning, allowing, accepting who you can be and what you can do in this world, what role did that play in this journey? What Jesse just talked about, like the getting out of the, it's kind of like a neuroses of like, I'm either in this box or I'm in that box. And it's not, it doesn't feel very helpful at all. It feels very, manic. How did you get out of that pinging and find a more nuanced, more loving place? How did that come about in your journey to this amazing woman?
I did a lot of things in extreme ways, and I've come to like that about myself. You know, that I'm like it. I love experiences and kind of extreme experiences for whatever reason, you know. And then I took part in, I joined a spiritual community when about, it was in 2003. I woke up one morning and I said, I have to talk to people about consciousness. That was just on the tip of my tongue. And I just kept repeating it over and over again. And it kind of led me down these synchronistic paths. And I found this magazine called What is Enlightenment magazine, which was interviewing all of these thought leaders and spiritual teachers about what is enlightenment. What does it mean to be? What does it mean specifically? Like, what does it mean to not seek enlightenment as an end state where you're then done, but to actually create and co-create enlightened awareness here now? Because what if now is the point? You know, there's this whole thing within religion that like the whole point is later, right? Do all this stuff now because the whole point is later you're going to have what you really want. You're going to get to heaven. And what if heaven could be now? This was kind of a central question that I loved in that community was, what if heaven is what we create now and we come together beyond ego with other human beings? And in that spiritual community, I meditated a lot. That was a big part of the practice. And in meditation, so this is the irony, this is what I wanted to pull out, this was when I saw through the nature of the mind. And it just like, it changed everything. I was trying so hard to get it right, to get meditation right. I was trying so hard to get it right. And at some point when I think I'd been meditating all night on retreat, and all of a sudden I saw that everything that I was pinging back and forth against to try to do it right was this unproductive polarity. No, do this, no, do that. I called it my coaching voice, like the internal coaching voice, which was telling me how to be good and do good and look good and all the things. Was like, I saw it as a fractal, that it existed to infinity. This coaching voice inside my mind that was trying to get me to be or do right within this context was infinite. Like I could be ping-ponging with that to infinity. And in the moment that I recognized that it was infinite and that the only way to ever be free from it is to opt out, like to fully opt out in the moment, just opt out. I was like, holy fuck, why did nobody ever tell me that there's no point to all of this? In regards to the point, I always thought that the point was like to get somewhere, to do something right. Like, isn't that the point? And then I realized that's not the point. That's not the point, actually, when it comes to this level of liberation and freedom within the self and ability to emanate our naturalness, like our emergent. We can't emanate our emergent naturalness as long as we're pinging back and forth against like the prison bars of good and bad and right and wrong and beautiful and ugly and all this stuff, right? So that was the beginning. That changed everything. And I was still totally neurotic and had all these trust issues. And then I was afraid of my ego and all that was there. But I had a different reference point.
I think so much of what I appreciate about you, Tiffany, and the conversations that we're having and the movement that is emerging, that's touching money and service and sales is a lot of what we talk about, but like that's bigger than that. Building a new economy, building a new world. This conversation about the biggest context is so grounded in like a big chunk of time doing the work, doing our spiritual practice. And the story that you just told, I think, is so illustrative of that dynamic, because you had an enormous awakening, enormous, like what you just described is an enlightenment moment for sure. And immediately on the heels of that, you were like, and I was still neurotic and didn't trust, blah, 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 and I had an ego. It's like, yeah, that's how it is. That's how spiritual life is. It is not the fucking cover of a yoga magazine. And no offense to the covers of yoga magazines, because what do we expect? They're going to somehow like represent this in one photograph, this lifetime of experience. But I think so much of what we're talking about is this almost activism for truth, which cannot be captured in the binary, cannot be captured in just one day of meditation. There's a couple things coming in. One is like this more almost like political thing that I'm just like, I just want our world to be broken open in the direction that you are pointing to. But I think also just really admiring your spiritual maturity. And if I were to go back to this moment where I was lifting you up and praising you and acknowledging for you what I think is so remarkable, I think that's actually the phrase. And it's because you've spent a lot of time looking at yourself, looking at the truth, studying, reflecting, being in contrast, learning from that contrast, getting caught in another duality and breaking that apart, transcending that, allowing your emergent naturalness to be fully expressed moment by moment by moment. And that is a cornerstone of this movement. Spiritual maturity. I don't know that it's only captured in time, but in my experience, the people who are really holding this pole, they've been doing it a long time. They're not newbies, and you can tell. Everybody listening, watching can tell. Tiffany's not a newbie. Rihanna's not a newbie. Jesse's not a newbie.
Everything you want is already